Okay, so I'm gonna skip formalities and sort of just get right into the point of this video because it's not important. So I, as of recently, have had an experience in life that has drastically changed my worldview of the entire world, of my family, of my society, of the beliefs of people around me, and I don't know what to say. To be honest, my entire life has changed. Okay, so let me get into specifics. So I had an experience, and I'm not going to get into the real nitty-gritty details of what I did and who it involved, but I had an experience where my entire world view led me to make terrible decisions, and I essentially put my entire future of having any happiness, and I sort of hung it over a cliff and let it dangle there and almost lost everything I had out of my lack of prudence and stupidity. And I got away by just a hair, like you know when you shoot something and the bullet just grazes it. That was what happened to me. It was just this close to ruining my life, ruining every single thing I ever wanted in the future. So I guess I can talk about specifically, I've taken the red pill, so that it's a Matrix reference, but it also has a lot to do with politics and worldview. And after this experience, I took the red pill, and I can't unsee what I see in the world now. I can't remove my perspective just for comfort anymore. It's like the world is a bad place, and our society is so fucked up, and it's going to hell and hell and hell faster thanks to so many reasons that people just are throwing everything away. And I almost threw everything of mine away because I was following my environment. I was following what I thought was right. I was following the advice of people who I thought cared about me. I was following the advice of my society, and I almost lost everything. That probably doesn't make sense, but this is just a philosophical rant, I suppose. So I had this situation where I dangled my entire future over a cliff, almost like, you know, if you've ever gone on a ship or a cruise ship or something, and then you just are like, I'm just gonna get on top of the gate and just, you know, graze myself over looking into the ocean, and I know if I fall in, there's gonna be nobody to help me get out because, you know, such a situation where waves are crashing by, you know, you could drown. So that was essentially the danger of the nature of such said situation. But, okay, so let me just fairly quickly, briefly summarize what led me to do what I did. It doesn't really matter because what I did is more of a why than a what. We do things based on whys and intentions other than what it actually is. So when I was younger in school, I grew up in a world where values weren't and virtues weren't so important. And I think if you can see in the world today, not a lot of people are very focused on teaching their children values. And I'm not saying this has anything to do with my parents. I'm saying society itself, it's driven in a very strange way. It's driven so far, society has gotten so far from nature and the natural state of biological needs of people, of social needs of people. Like, for example, I've always had traditional values. I've always felt like being somebody with good virtues and you know, having the intelligence based on reasoning will lead you to a good place. And I grew up, and in the schools and my environment, I was told that wants often were more important than what I had in mind. So when you think of happiness in school, they tell you, go and grow up and get a good job, and go to college and spend a lot of money on that, and then get a good job, and the money is what will basically make you a happy person. So not virtues and values and living your life planning to spend it with another person and planning to, you know, have a family and raising your kids based on certain values. That wasn't ever important. And in school, especially in my high school years and towards the end of it, there were certain political movements going on, such as the Black Lives Matter thing and the whole war on masculinity, and the sort of feminist movement obviously is still very popular, but those things were sort of very trendy and popular. And where I went to school and the people I surrounded myself with oftentimes preached ideas of liberation and all of this seemingly good on the surface characteristics as virtues. So, you know, women shouldn't be treated this and this. And my opinion of feminism, and I want to get into it eventually, but just for now, I'll tell you that my opinion of feminism is currently basically needless. Feminism has given women the excuse that bad behavior is encouraged in the name of liberation. So sleep around, it doesn't make you a slut or whatever. And I know obviously that's not true. Sleeping around does make you a slut, and you can even look at it. It's not a virtue. It's sleeping around. It's not a good thing. Based on some facts, it doesn't even have to be religious ideas, but facts of sexual market value, which is something that I've recently learned thanks to Stefan Molyneux and Lauren Southern and other people who've actually spoken on the statistics behind that. So I basically was tried to, like, when I was in school, they would have presentations where they tell men not to be masculine and basically try to suppress the natural biology and psychology of a man, and you know, women's rights and whatever women still want that they don't already have. That was talked about, like, oh, you know, people make fun of me, so I'm gonna complain, and I have a problem with feminism and the whole left-wing ideologies that are so common, what I would call cultural Marxism. But so I had instances in school, especially in classes, where we'd have debates, and I like debating. I think it's an important tool of the scientific method and the Socratic method, the ability to use your values and test your values and express your values and have them be tested. It sort of makes you a stronger intellectually stronger individual, because your views are constantly being tested. So therefore, you know, when you go and you challenge somebody else, you have to have facts, and it makes you a very strong person. It makes you a very intellectual person, because even if you're wrong, then that makes you go back and research, and it's something that debates these days have gone the way of, oh, you offended me, I'll shut up, or you offended me, okay, so let's not debate. You offended me, you're wrong. It's like, no, facts are not feelings, and feelings are not facts. But that is another fact that people don't really want to discuss. So we had many debates, and a lot of it was based on women, whether or not women should, or what's the upside of women having careers basically, or not having careers, and what is the upside of women. And I don't really remember the question because it's been years, but one time, at one point in time, this girl in my class got up and she said, you know, women should have this and this and this just so they can be equal to men. And I said, I like stood up, and this was sort of like the beginning of me shaping who I am as a person to who I am now. But I stood up and I said, what's wrong with a traditional woman? What's wrong with somebody who doesn't want what you want? And people argued with me and they said, oh, that's wrong. You know, you should want this, this, and this, and a lot of money. And I said, but what's wrong with, you know, traditionalism? And nobody really answered me with facts. They just said, oh, well, it is because you're oppressed. I'm like, but what if that's what I want? You know, and I was, you know, you don't want that. You don't want that. You want this, this, and this. So there's obviously a lot of brainwashing with regards to the way they treat children, not children, but students in school. And I was told that that was wrong. So you can see how I've been socially shaped based on my environment. But so I finished that school and stuff. That was a different part of my life, and what I'm saying now, so something that's been evidently, empirically, blindingly clear to me is that many of the people you may surround yourself with don't have functional values, and many of the people you have to surround yourself because you might go to work and you might go, you know, live near them, or they might be in your family. You might not share the same values as they do, and it's easy to soak up dysfunctionality like a corrupt sponge, so to speak. So what I'm saying is I had this crazy moment of clarity where there are certain things that I had compromised for based on my environment that I shouldn't have compromised on. Like, for example, I had friends in the past that made terrible decisions, and I'm like, oh, you know, I'll just be friends with them because maybe I can help them out or whatever. And I was like, no, you cannot get involved with dysfunctional people. And I had taken terrible advice from people for years. And then I had failed to look at their lives. I had failed to look at how miserable they were. And really, their advice was just sabotaging to me, because I was taking the advice of a many flawed individuals and accepting it as blind faith, in a sense. And I failed to realize that these people were instilling values in me, and I wasn't being that anchor of prudence and clarity and all that sort of nice anchor of virtues that lead you to be a good person. Because if you're set in stone and you know who you are, not know who you are, it's not exactly self-knowledge, it's not the whole gander of it. It's more of like, if I sit in this anchor of who I am, then I can learn my environment and I can learn the motives of people around me, and that I had failed to do that, basically. So I know this is going to sound really philosophical, but I mean, it is. But I think there's a saying that it's like social justice is like the herpes for stupidity. It spreads and spreads and spreads, and then there's what is that called? This sort of, let's just say a penicillin type thing for it. I'm having aphasia, I can't remember the word. There's that thing that helps you clear it up, and that's blindingly obvious, but if you're surrounded by a group of insane people, or people, not insane, but if you're surrounding yourself by a group of dysfunctional people, you're never going to really learn the cure to a flawed ideology. So my point is, I surrounded myself with people that were inherently dysfunctional, failed to realize that they were dysfunctional because society has given them excuses via social justice, and then started to mirror their behavior. And then I had a very, very, very perilous wake-up call that has basically changed my entire worldview. And the entire thing I've been saying for a while is that I cannot believe what I see now. I cannot believe what I did. I cannot believe that I was so blind to engage in such risky behavior and want something, but not equate my wants to my actions, because the future is built on a reason, not a what. I mean, there's this common misconception that the future of the world is, or life itself, is one great puzzle. It's one great enigma that needs to be cracked. It's one great cryptological equation, and it's really not. Everything is so much more simple than you make it. You know, it's based on living a life of good values and good virtues and finding other people that share that, because there's two things in life. One of those is friends you make based on interests and friends that you make based on camaraderie. And I was speaking with my mother yesterday, and we were talking about friends and how, and even spouses and friends and people who stay in your life forever. They can even be brother, sister, but it's these people you usually choose. So we were talking about how there is a distinct difference between a friend you make based on interest, somebody who has the same hobbies as you, and a friend who's suffered thick and thin and been there life or death for you based on, you know, and that's a camaraderie. So like when people go to war, oftentimes if you come back, you have friends for life because you shared this earth-shattering experience with another individual, or maybe other individuals that are also fighting with you. And a lot of times soldiers will have friends for the rest of their lives based on building this trust, based on this earth-shattering experience that really showed you the reality of how precious and easy it is to lose life. So that's another fact I just want to throw out there, that there are people that you can just have interest with and share hobbies with, and that might not be the most important, incredible people in your life. And then there are people that it's like night and day how close you can be with those people based on values. So what I'm gonna say is that I've been doing a lot of research after the fact that I had this terrible experience, and I've become red-pilled. And basically what I mean by that is I have been more I guess conscientious of what my values are, and I've been more conscientious of what the world truly is, and I've woken up to what is the real truth of society, at least in the first world. And there are so many problems with it that I used to consider myself a conservative for years, but I didn't equate that, my political stance, with how important good values are. Stuff that makes up the fabric of our society. That stuff has really changed me, and I've been on hunt, I've really been on this search for information. It's like I didn't know I needed the information until I found it. It's like being lost in the desert and being so caught up on getting out of the desert because you're thirsty and everything, and then you get a gallon of water and you drink all the water, and then all of a sudden you're like, wow, I didn't know how much I needed. That was so refreshing, and I feel so much better, and wow, everything seems bright. It's like putting on a pair of glasses and you have bad vision and not knowing that you have bad vision, and then putting the glasses on and being like, wow, everything's so clear. I don't know that one, but I'm just saying, it's like this instant, not instant, painful relief, because when you learn the truth about the world, you're never going to unsee the truth about the world. And your entire worldview changes, but you start living life honestly, and the only thing you're losing by being an honest person is dishonest people in your life. So the pain is going to come from having to filter out the honesty and the virtue from the dishonesty, and a lot of times it'll be a relief, but a lot of times it's painful and you'll never be able to unsee, but you'll be living your life in such a better way than you thought before. And I've been for this, after this life-changing event and this earth-shattering truth appeared to me, I've been looking and researching and being very thirsty, like I said, and clear for the knowledge of the reality of our world. Stuff like, I've been watching Jordan Peterson and Stefan Molyneux, and I've been, you know, looking at so many videos on the internet, and I'm just like shook. No, not really shook, but shocked. And it's like, the truth is plain to see. It sounds like I'm quoting Procol Harum's Whiter Shade of Pale, but the truth and the reality has always been there, but I couldn't find it because of my reality. I couldn't find it because of the situations and the people I surrounded myself with. I couldn't find it because of my society and culture, and everything has let us all down and made us believe the lie that spreading values like the plague, like herpes, just these fake values is real virtue. Like you see the women with the purple hair that stand up and they stand on their soapbox and they yell about the patriarchy, but that's not going to get you anything. There's something greater about life, and life is not a mystery anymore. It's really not. It's, if you live your life and fuck up, you're going to be depressed and you're going to hate it. And I almost lost all happiness for the rest of my life, and I'm still shocked. I'm so shocked by that. But if you live your life with good values, you're going to surround yourself with good people, and you're going to have positive outcomes. Taking the red pill made me wake up to what values are important to me. And I've cemented my ideas on certain things, such as why I have a problem with divorce, why I don't believe in single motherhood, why I have a problem with drugs, why I have a problem with the pharmaceutical industry, and why I have a problem with the current education system, and so many countless things. You know, obviously, you know, problems like abortion, I have an issue with it. I have an issue with legalizing certain substances. I have a problem with the welfare state. I have a problem with all this stuff. And it's like, yeah, I see people going through life and having, you know, their faith be put in strange places like drugs and liquor and women and stuff like that. and I see people unhappy, and feminism has tried to teach women that happiness is so far gone from what it's naturally intended to be. Like, they taught women that happiness is found when you destroy the patriarchy or something like that, and so society has greatly let us down, and I'm shocked that it took an earth-shattering event for me to realize that everything I believed was a lie. Everything I believe was clouded and murky, and that the problems of our world are so much more intense, that's not really the right word, so much more obvious, but hard to realize than I thought. And it took me like this night and day situation. I had to wake up to really realize that I could have lost all happiness. I could have lost everything. I could have become a person that, you know, is not living their life based on good things. So I don't know, I'm gonna conclude this video, because if I don't, I'd be talking here for 2 hours straight about things and stuff in life. Not really. But I hope that sort of made any sense. This is less of an explanatory video than a reactionary video. So I'm not really explaining anything, but more like reacting to my current situation in life. So thank you for watching, and please stick around, stay a while, I don't know. I plan on making a lot more content, but thanks for watching.